Hello and welcome to John's Author Diary for the week ending June 10th, 2018. I've not had the best of weeks this week. I had to make a really tough decision. I went back to Blind Reset after the half-term break and read what I'd done, and it just wasn't very good. And to cut a long story short, I pulled the book from pre-order. Now that was a really hard decision for me to make because I don't like letting readers down. And I know this will hurt me as a business decision, but this was one of those times that I had to make a decision that was an artistic one. I felt that what I was producing wasn't of sufficient quality, and the story just wasn't there in the same way it was with Blind Gambit. Now, I'm really proud of Blind Gambit as a book. I think that what I tried to do with it was very honest, very raw, and maybe I should have taken a bit of a break after finishing that book. Maybe I should have done a different project for a while and then gone back to Blind Reset. I mean, I might do that in the future, but when I wrote Blind Gambit, I just saw it as a one for me, one and done standalone project. And so if anyone listening to this has pre-ordered Blind Reset, then I do apologise, but I think it was for the best. In actual writing news, I did about 5,000 words to the first draft of Cleric of the Wasteland, which is Wasteland Book 4. Now, I am pleased with how that story's going, so at least that's a good thing. And I've also been doing a lot of work planning an epic fantasy series that I've had in my head for several years. So I've written the first draft of the first story of this, so it's a prequel to the main series. Now what I'm doing, just because I'm a glutton for punishment, is I'm going to write 22 stories, probably novella length, which I will release as a serial, hopefully every month. Now I want to get a few of these in the bag first before I start releasing them, but this is the same character from a collection, Her Name Was Red. Now, out of all of my stories that I've written, that's the one that has got the most feedback in terms of people really engaging with the character. And something about the story seems to resonate. So when I wrote the original Red story, I had intended to do it as an epic fantasy, but I wrote it at a time where I didn't know about how to plan an outline and how to prepare myself for a big project. And because I'm doing this as a business and I need to pay my bills, instead of spending several months writing 150,000 word novels, what I want to do is break up the story so it's released a bit like a serial in the same way you'd get on Netflix or something like that. So these will be shorter novellas, probably about 20,000 words. And then when they're all done, I'll put them together as complete novels. So I should have 22 of those in the end. I think it'll probably take me 2 years to do. So this is a long-term project. What I'm hoping is that doing it in this way means I'll be able to do this big doorstop project while at the same time being able to pay my bills. So that's very important to me. I have a big story arc planned out, and what I'm doing for each story is when I'm about to sit down and write the story, I'm using a tarot card from the Major Arcana to inspire some of the elements and themes from that story. So each of the stories will actually be the name of one of the major tarot cards. So I've just written the Fool. In the tarot it is card 0, so naturally that is going to be my prequel, and this will be one of those things that I offer to people who sign up to my mailing list and that kind of thing, and it just gives a little bit more about the main character and her motivations. So I'm really looking forward to getting my teeth into this project because I think I've been world building it now for several years. So I've written some stories in this world, but now it's time to pull the trigger and get this done. I read a really cool novella this week by Brandon Sanderson called Edge Dancer. Now, this is in his Stormlight Archive series, so this goes basically between Words of Radiance and Oathbringer, so kind of book 2.5, and it follows the story of Lift, who's one of the minor POV characters in Words of Radiance. Now, she was one of my favourite characters in the books, so I really enjoyed this novella. I thought it was great, very funny, a lot of humour, and I just love Brandon Sanderson's writing, so I would recommend that. Chris Sarantopoulos asks, what inspired you to write your Wasteland series? So I started this series, I wrote Night of the Wasteland first. I really wanted to explore the idea of addiction and religion and do it in a post-apocalyptic setting. I think when I was writing it, everything in the news was really bleak, so it seemed that when I was writing it, hope was a bit scarce. So I wanted to write something where the main theme running through it was hope, and that even in the worst circumstances you can still find things to hold on to. So a lot of it just started off as having images in my head of this guy exploring a flooded city with a rowing boat, scavenging to find things to trade. And then obviously I needed a story to go around that. So that became Night of the Wasteland. And then I did a prequel to this called Addicts of the Wasteland, which you can get for free on Amazon. And this was my main character Abel's backstory about how he overcame addiction. And then Wizard of the Wasteland, which became the first novel, was based on something that had come to me in a dream. So I had this image of this travelling showman pretending to be a wizard, kind of putting on these shows and tricking people into believing that old technology was magical. And I think it probably came from that Arthur C. Clarke phrase where he said something like, technology seems magical when we don't understand it, or something like that. And then King of the Wasteland came because I felt that the Christian settlement within the Wasteland called Trinity had it too easy. So I wanted their settlement to be raided, I wanted them to be out of their homes, and to show that surviving in this hostile place is hard when you don't have a community and when you don't have a network of trade and farming around you. So I very much enjoyed writing that one, and I'm enjoying writing Cleric of the Wasteland, which carries on straight after the end of King of the Wasteland. And so with this one, I really wanted to write essentially a quest story where two of the main characters have got to go from basically one place to another and have adventures along the way. So remember, if you've got any questions, please email me. It's john@johncronshaw.com. That's JONCRONSHAW. If you want to follow me on Twitter, it's @JLCronshaw. You should check out my other podcast called Stop Booking Around. This past week, we looked at understanding Russ's ideal reader. So I've been really enjoying doing these shows and just getting to speak with my mate Russ a bit more, because he still lives in Wolverhampton, I live in Morecambe, and good friends can be hard to find. So until next time, cheerio.